Hi.
Okay, sir. Hi.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Mishana Mohammed, and it is my pleasure and honor to be hosting this event today. So, firstly, let me welcome all of you to today's session. Firstly, our guest of the hour, Professor Bobin Saji George, sir, our dream team members, and to each of you joining us today here. So, welcome. First of all, let me introduce to you about a Dream Team. So, Dream Team is a group of young minds, a group of youngsters from all around Kerala who have come together with a single goal in mind, and that is to invent lives. Our aim is to excel, to contribute, to serve, to change, to innovate, to grow stronger together for a bold India with young minds. As it is rightly said in Volume 5, Chapter 3 of the New Human Revolution, history has always been shaped by the power of youth. So, for moving towards with this goal in our mind and to give an onset to our journey, we have initiated and performed several activities so far. So, today we are here with this session to make aware of everyone about December 14, World Energy Conservation Day. And as Mahatma Gandhi rightly said, the future of India lies in its villages. And therefore, the topic of today's discussion is renewable resources for rural development. And today, our session will be conducted by Professor Bobin Saji George, sir. He is a host scientist, ASEA, and Indian Research Training Fellowship, and an assistant professor of Department of Mechanical Engineering at Baselios College of Engineering and Technology, Trivandrum. So I welcome you once again to the session, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Mishana. Very good evening to all my participants over here. Thank you for your warm words towards me. As you rightly pointed out, today we are celebrating the World Energy Conservation Day. And as part of Energy Conservation Day, I got this opportunity to conduct a webinar session on the role of renewable energy when it comes to rural development. So I hope my audio and video is visible and clear to all of you. So without much further ado, we will start with the session. Uh, Wait a minute. Yeah, we'll start with the session. I will share the screen now. Wait a minute. So I hope the presentation is visible. So can someone confirm on that?
No, sir. We can see that you're presenting, but the presentation is not visible.
There is some issue with the presentation. That's Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. So, renewable resources for rural development. As you have given me an introduction, myself, Bobin, Saji. I'm working as an assistant professor at Baselios College of Engineering and Technology, Trivandrum. And also I'm associated with the ASEAN India Research Training Fellowship as host scientist. Also, I'm a co-principal investigator for an ISRO Respond project. So to start with our discussion today, I would like to quote a famous quote from the former General Secretary for our United Nations, Ban Ki-moon. In the Millennium Development Goals, MDG, report of 2015, he pointed out, in his talk also he pointed out the same time, that means that there are disparities between the rural as well as the urban areas. And that disparities continue to mount up as humanity is advancing, starting from the time when humans started the association as a society. The need of settling down has arisen, and by this settling down, what happened was that industries was coming out of that result, and by that it was pointed out that, or it was observed that certain areas tends to develop much more, while at the same time certain areas were having certain drawbacks when it comes to the existing correspondings. So in that, one of the most important or sociological divide that can exist in a society is that of a rural and urban divide, that actually is mainly fueled by many factors. In that, economy is one of the primary factors that comes into that picture. And to reduce that divide, the United Nations have actually come up with what it is termed as Sustainable Development Goals. And in that Sustainable Development Goals, we are listed out a certain set of goals. We had no hunger, no clean sanitation, like that. In that, the goal number 7 actually conceptualizes that by 2030, there needs to be an affordable, reliable, and a sustainable modern energy needs to be ensured for all as the society. So by these definitions, by affordable, by reliable, by sustainable, as well as a modern term, it actually represents that you need to have what the system defines to be a renewable source of energy, where the entire system depends, so that everyone can harness the benefits out of that. So it is actually a wide broad term, because we can't bring every form of energy into this definition. One of the formal definitions that we can have for a non-renewable system of energy is that it is non-renewable, or it can be exploited, or it can be exploited, or it can be depleted after a course of time. But when it comes to non-renewable, so when it comes to renewable, what happens is that the energy source itself becomes advantageous to the people that are using. At the same time, it helps in developing a better future by fueling a normal as well as a sustainable growth that is being conceptualized world. So goal number 7 of the Sustainable Development Goals actually helps to or ensures that people that are listening, or people that are relying on this non-renewable forms of energy, can actually be self-sustained over the course of time. Now, as an explanation or as a detailed description of that, there is, before the pre-COVID times, now everything, the entire world history is being classified into pre-COVID and post-COVID time. So before the COVID situation was mounting up, the role of UN as well as the role of this Sustainable Development Goal 7 was mainly to scale up on whatever we will be calling as the sustainable form of energy. So scaling up, by what it means is that as an approximate connection of approximate count of 789 million people in the world were lacking a proper electricity. And such a divide, when it comes to the modern society of happening things, in a society where people are it's moving from 5G to 6G at some point of time, there are people in some part other of the world where they are not even having access to basic electricity. And so in order to account for that, what it is needed was we need renewable sources as defined, so that the total energy consumption, which is having 70% only worldwide, that needs to be scaled up, or that needs to be increased to a higher. And what happens with COVID is that we are highly dependent on reliable energy because they are critical for health facilities. On an approximate count, it was given that approximately 1 out of 4 hospitals in the world is non-electrified. By non-electrified, it doesn't mean that there is no electric source. It doesn't have a reliable source of energy. That means intermittent power breaking ups or intermittent shortfalls of power that was widely being executed or widely being deferred by people all over the world. And when it comes to the efficiency or how efficient you are delivering the energy, that efficiency rate also comes to a standstill when it comes to the pre-COVID times of certain things. So as I've told, we can't directly access everything. Everything will be dependent on the economy of things. So that means that there needs to be financial implications happening, or the amount of money that we can spend on achieving these targets. That is one of the most crucial things, or one of the most crucial aspect that actually defines how we can move forward into this renewable regime in such a condition that can aid the advancement of people. So coming to, that is all about an introduction for our today's topic. Coming to our discussion topic, how to couple the renewable energy system or the renewable energy regime to that of rural development. So as your tagline says, the heart of the country lives in villages, as Mahatma Gandhi famously said. So how efficiently we can bring forward the rural divide into what we perceive as the form of development that actually aids for the leap of mankind in achieving what it is termed as the sustainable development goals. That means energy is one of the crucial factors that actually fuels development. So the concept of development, that we can define that of any terms, but mainly we are measuring that in the terms of, let's say, measurable manners like social indicators, health indicators, or let's say education, like in the other intangible benefits. So whatever the indicator that you are choosing, energy plays a crucial role in that, and we need to have a joint strategy that couples development and that couples the policy ownership that is being developed for the rural area in such a condition that the growth in renewable energy actually aids for the development process, and it helps policymakers to achieve whatever indicators or whatever measuring yardstick they are trying to achieve. So you need to have a joint strategy for that. And in order to have a joint strategy, there needs to be the importance of people working together, people in the form of policymakers, people from the rural community. So all these things must work together to achieve a joint strategy that actually propels the rural development. Similarly, there needs to be one another term, and this term is currently having much more importance when it comes to all policies that we are having, that is defined as energy democracy. This term was actually coined by the United Nations when it was having especially the International Energy Agency. So by energy democracy, what it means is that suppose we are living in an area which is having, let's say, poor energy availability, let's say in the backskirts of, let's say, Kargil or in Ladakh, where intermittent sources of power are the basic reliable things currently that we are having. And we can't expect that place to grow at a healthy rate if we are facing such intermittent power shortages or intermittent power available. So in that condition, what needs to be have is that, suppose as a landfall as large as India, so the people in the capital place Delhi also need to have an equal access to the amount of energy that is available to a remote place in Ladakh. Or the people in Ladakh should have, or they should be entitled for the equal amount of energy that their counterpart in, let's say, the national capital Delhi is having. So by that term of energy democracy, it means that there needs to be a better policy making aspect, both in the national level, in the international level, coming to the areas, let's say local governance level, we need to have it at the state level, we need to have at the municipal level or at the local body level. So such energy democracy that needs to be a vertical manner, that needs to be accessible to all. I've taken this data currently out of the annual report of Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, that is Government of India. So in order to achieve these two goals, that means you need to have a joint strategy, and as well as you need to have an energy democratic approach. So renewable energy plays the crucial role in that. And by renewable energy, it clearly defines that the system needs to pristinely keep the environment as such, and the future generation, they should be accessible to such resources. Now, to achieve that, our country, India, is mainly planning to achieve a total renewable power capacity of 175 gigawatts. That is one of the most achievable targets that's being set by the ministry. And with the basis of the non-shared basic fuel, it is mean that needs to be reduced to at the least of 40% by the Sustainable Development Goal achievement target of 2030. And in order to achieve this target, the government has been very keen in running very multiple initiative programs, policies, and there are many incentives being given so that the renewable energy sector could accelerate and cope up with its counterpart of non-renewable energy sector. To look at how the energy capacity or how the energy system or how the energy basket is being generated currently with respect to India, we are mainly dependent on approximately 63% of our total energy requirement is being met by non-renewable sources. We can primarily call them to be thermal sources or coal-powered power plants. India is one of the most populous countries, and in order to meet the needs of such a populous country, still we are relying on coal-powered power generators, and remaining 37% is being coupled by renewable forms of energy, hydropower, and nuclear. In a broad term, we can call all these together to be renewable, but when it comes to capital investment and all other things, we divide hydropower and nuclear power into a separate entity. But together, we can, as a coupled term, we can call them to be a total non-renewable plant. So approximately by 2009, the end of 2019, we have a system that is approximately depending on 37% on the renewable sector and 63% on the non-renewable sector, especially coal. And we are planning to achieve that system to move on from that 37% to approximately 60% over the course of next 10 years. That's why I said it is a much more realizable target compared to other countries. So now, as we have seen the rural development, we need to have a joint strategy and we need to have an energy democratic approach towards the development of that. And for that, I'm basically listing out the best practices that is mainly available at the national, international, also as our state level. So how the rural community is catching up with the changing things and how policymakers are helping to achieve that. The first one, around the world, module that we have moved up, that is the International Solar Alliances, which is currently having an approximately 121 countries as membership, as members. And this is one of the most important, or we can say the milestone steps in terms of world, where we are completely relying on a solar type of system for our future generation. And we can proudly say that it is being propagated by our own country, that is India. So on basis of the International Solar Alliances, it is planned that by 2030, all the 121 signatories will move on to a regime where solar power is going to be the most crucial aspect for that. So coming to our country, we have what it is termed as the National Solar Mission. And by this National Solar Mission, it is performed that, or it is to be believed that approximately 175 gigawatt of power we can generate, that is the majority of the non-renewable target that we are going to achieve is through National Solar Mission. And by this National Solar Mission, mainly the solar power we can harvest either in the form of a PV module or in the form of a thermal module. And by this PV module as well as thermal module, the solar mission aims to achieve a system in such a condition that the PV or the thermal model can actually help in the people, as well as it can achieve the target that is being set. Now, so coming to the photovoltaic module, as we all know, we will be having a module that is available to us, and solar light will fall onto that, and by the incident of solar light, photons will start emitting, and that will create electricity, and that electricity is harnessed. This is the most common type. And by the most common type of system, even though PV is to be the most reliable or the most used type, the total energy conversion or the total energy efficiency that we are actually observing for solar photo modules is approximately to be 10 to 12%. This is mainly because of the amount of heat that is being lost to the atmosphere. Even though we are having a subsequent or a very much efficient system for the generation of heat, in comparison to the efficiency parameter, how we will be measuring that efficiency, that itself is a very explainable manner. So I'm not going into that technical aspect. The major problem with this is that there will be some sort of losses, because the entire heat that is falling on the system is not being used. So in that condition, in order to improve the solar photovoltaics, mainly because we are a country that is correspondingly being falling in the tropical region or near to the equator region, so that we will be having abundance of heat. And because of this abundance of solar energy, our country is mainly relying on solar photovoltaic method as well as solar thermal method, so that we can generate the amount of energy from that. And whatever here we are having is a very large solar park which is being constructed, which is having an approximate 2000 megawatt. That is very reliable, or what you say, a very vast solar plant. And it has one of the most, improved systems of solar cleaning. Similar to that, in our Kerala also we have such higher solar parks. And one of the most recent one is that Banasura Sadar Dam, which is having floating solar power plant. Then coming to the application of that as a single system. So as I told, we are having a very large landscape which is susceptible to very large solar irradiance or solar incidents. Such systems can be employed for the generation of, as you say, power generation as an on-grid system or an off-grid system. At the same time, it can be employed for purposes like running a pump. As we all know, our country, which is it is an agrarian country, even though our agriculture output is less than 17%, we are having a total population of more than 60% that is relying on agriculture. Especially in the rural urban divide, if we are looking into the rural areas, we are having approximately 80 to 85% of the rural population depending on agriculture. That is the primary source. So we can call agriculture to be the largest employing private workforce even in the world itself. We can call like that. So coming into incidences of such or incorporating such solar PV modules coming into the development of, let's say, of solar pumps. We are having different types of pumps, and in that, we know that there need to be electric power for the running of pump. So if there is a rural area which doesn't have, let's say, continuous power supply, you can employ a solar pump. There are various examples. This is one of the examples, especially when it comes to Rajasthan. It is a vast state we have where there is a desert also present. So in that condition, it will be very difficult to achieve complete solar penetration or complete power penetration. So in order to such condition, we'll be having different type of system. The other type, this is one of the most important schemes that is being carried forward by the government as the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Uttam Mahabhiyan PM Kusum scheme. By this scheme, it is planned to generate or plan to install street lights at each area as well as solar pumps for the generation of water power. So if you take our neighboring state, Tamil Nadu, there for agriculture purposes, electricity is given as free subsidy. So that means that much amount of power is required and people are not having that much amount of capacity to pay for that. So the state has to bear that minimum in the form of subsidies. So by incorporating such a scheme in such a condition, whether that being an on-grid connection or off-grid connection, by on-grid connection, it means that if there is excess energy that will be transferred to the grid, just like a power plant works. If it is an off-grid system, it means that electricity will be directly used for that purpose, or you will be having a storage system. So whenever such systems are being in place, it actually helps in saving a lot of amount of money, and that amount of money again comes into the market as a growth stimulator. The second type of system, we are having the solar concentrating collectors, where this is one of the systems that being introduced in Kargil currently now. So what happens is that they will be having solar parabolic collectors like this, and solar rays will impinge on this, and these rays will be directed to this pipe. Over inside this, water will be flowing, and that hot water can either be used for all purposes, whether it being an industry where hot water is required, or whether being a household, or whether being a rural area where hot water is correspondingly being used, because otherwise it would require a normal electric heater, or it would require some form of carbonated products or for combustion in such areas. So in order to avoid that, we can employ the CST or the solar collectors that is being employed, so that we can actually save a lot in the form of energy as well as in the form of carbon footprint. Now, again, this is another system as part of the solar alliances, not the solar alliance, the solar mission. So we will be having there are commercial greenhouses that being used in such a condition that even in the minus cold degrees of temperature, you can actually have products like this or vegetables like this can be grown inside such a greenhouse with the help of a solar water product. So what actually happens is that here the value addition of that product is being done, and at the same time the product can be used or can be kept for a normal amount of time, which was unable to be stored in the earlier condition because of the changing climates. In order to keep a constant temperature at those areas, that will be very difficult. Now, with the help of such solar water heaters or concentrated solar collectors, or with the help of other solar systems, it is very easier now to store such products as a greenhouse, and that increase again the economy, and again even health benefits are being transferred. Then comes the next aspect, that is wind power. On the left hand side, I am having a wind power meter or a wind power map where the utilization factor percentage is given at a height of approximately 120 meter. So corresponding to wind velocity, you can see that areas which are having higher altitude, if you look into our Western Ghat area, near to our Western Ghats, if you can see starting from Gujarat, at the end of Gujarat to the end of our Kanyakumari, we can see that along with the Western Ghats area that is running, we are having higher wind potential. And this on the right hand side, it actually shows an installation site of a wind turbine. And such wind turbines, when are being installed, it actually aids those rural areas which are nearer to that, so that those can be easily accessed, or such power can be easily accessed to the neighboring area. And similarly, if we go to the northern side, we are having areas nearer to Himalayas, again, which is at a higher altitude, we will be having a normal power or a generating potential. Even other areas are also suitable for that. For that, we will be going for what it is termed as hybrid system. Then coming to the solar as well as wind power nearer to seas. So these two are the basic potential areas that are being correspondingly being installed in such a condition that the nearer to the seashore, the power of wind that is gulfing us from the Bay of, not from the Bay of Bengal as well as the Arabian Sea, is correspondingly being captured. And by locating such areas, if you can see over here, you can see that it's nearer to the Gujarat as well as some Tamil Nadu. So nearer to here, we are having Surat and other Saurashtra, which is having the worst affected regions when it comes to the urban divide or the rural divide. So people are facing such rural issues. By the placing such power plants nearer to such areas, we are actually able to cover the energy potential that is being required for that. Then comes biomass power. So coming to biomass power, it actually means that you can actually employ waste products that are coming out of your household, or other types of waste that being used to fill in the landfills, or normal wood. So all these constitutes what it is termed as biomass. And these biomass power plants, so what over here is a cogeneration power plant in which you will be having the byproduct of, let's say, it's actually from Maharashtra, where it is a very rich state which is having a large number of sugarcane plants. So by the byproduct of this sugarcane that is termed as bagasse, this is being fed into this type of power plant system, and this avoids the problem of subtle burning, and actually it helps in generation of power in the future comes. Then comes the recent as well as the Kerala model of development of renewable power plants, that is small hydro power plants. So we know that we are a state which is having a very large number of water bodies, and because of this we are having very large number of hydroelectric power plants starting from our Mullaperia to the Banasura Sagar and all other things. So, but when it comes to areas which are available to us, which are having very less altitude, we can employ what it is termed as small hydro power plants. And our state, Kerala, especially, this was the small power plant which was erected by the Energy Management Center, especially the Kerala State Electricity Board at Mangalam in Idukki. So they started a small revolution. That means you need not install a very large turbine to generate power. Even if there is very small run of water that is available, like a mere waterfall that is available, that can be incorporated to develop a very small power plant that can be grid connected also, because even by incorporating a very small turbine, you are having a power output that can actually power very two small villages which are having approximately 1,000 to 2,000 waters in the every two panchayats. So such small power plants which was being conceptualized by in Kerala, now it is being widely used all over across the world. Earlier there were only very big power plants being used. Now even if by the help of very small power plants, people are ready to invest, and our Kerala, and it actually is one of the greatest working models that when it comes to suitable power generation. Then comes nuclear power energy. So whenever I am presenting about nuclear energy, people are very much skeptical, because the first thing that comes into their mind is safety. Whether it is safe or not. That is the first question that comes into mind. So whatever the dangers that nuclear energy states, it actually consists of a very safe as well as a very reliable option when it comes to the renewable aspect as well as to the rural development aspect. I will state examples for that. If you take the country of France, we know that France is one of the most frontiers in nuclear technology, and France actually achieved that energy dominance mainly by the help of this nuclear power. Take the case of Japan. So whenever I am saying Japan, people will first prop up the question of Fukushima Daiichi. Yes, that was an incident. It was a mishap. But remember, there are only 3 most notorious accidents that has happened: Fukushima Daiichi, Chernobyl, and the Big Mile Island incident. But the amount of power or the amount of benefit that comes out of nuclear energy, that is very much higher than the issues that have caused. Oh, yes, it is having issues. I am agreeing with that. But when it comes to the rural development, or when it comes to rural development, nuclear energy can be employed for proper water conservation. So whenever there is an industry being in use, where we all know that there is drip irrigation, and we can perform that drip irrigation for the better development of crops. But in order to have a clear understanding of whether the plant is receiving exact amount of water that is required, you can employ nuclear energy. You are not making use of nuclear fission or fusion process over there. You are making use of a nuclear byproduct in such a condition that you are measuring whether the plant has received the exact amount of water. Similarly, food irradiation. When it comes to storage of foods, alpha rays, beta rays, and gamma rays, so can be employed in such a condition that the storage of food can be carried out for a very long period of time. This actually shows a nuclear isotope which actually irradiates the food, and it is being tested all over the world, and people and there are studies that are coming out saying that this is 100% normal for your human body. Because if you take the case of proton therapy, because as nuclear X-rays are coming up, proton therapy is one of the most important aspects that are going right now. Now in India, we are having coming to the Apollo Hospital in Chennai as well as Hyderabad, they have that treatment. And why the importance of that treatment is that this is a non-invasive technique, and people are getting a lots of benefit when it comes to the comparative treatment of other cancer operations like chemotherapy. And now coming to a global example, we all know that Yemen, which was going through a very bloody civil war that was happening, and the country was fully famished, and people were actually looking into how to arrive at or how to build up from that. Then United Nations come up with this program that is termed as the Solar Livelihood Improvement Program in Yemen. And what they did was that, this is a global example I'm citing, what they did was that they made this much amount of women to be trained in solar power, so that this solar power can be harnessed for whatever industry they are working on. Whether they need power for their home, whether they need power for running a solar power plant, whether they not a solar power plant, for a solar pump for pumping water to their agriculture, and for their cooking purpose. So by incorporating a solar livelihood or a solar mission throughout their life or throughout their normal life, over the course of 2 years, what they have observed is that, first of all, women became empowered. That is the most important aspect that every society should achieve. By women empowerment, only the society can move forward. And similarly, as they have achieved with very much less cost-effective manner, the system began to move in a normal manner, and people actually started to believe that there is a possibility of escape, or there is a possibility of development in front of them. And this is one of the most crucial and most successful stories. By incorporating solar energy in their all livelihood, the country Yemen is not completely being, so the first question will be, is Yemen the problems are over? No, it is not completely over. But provinces are coming up with solutions that are actually taking them out of the poverty that they have landed, and even that too within a short span of time. So coming to my conclusion, I am taking a quote from the famous speech of our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes which comes but rarely in history, when you step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed find utterance. So same application that we can apply for the transformation, and this transformation over here is fueled by what we can call as the renewable energy. So with this quote, I am concluding my presentation for today. So if you people are having any doubts, you can shoot up right away. And I thank the Dream team for hosting me and the listeners for patiently listening to me. I know this is, I have not done justice to the topic, because within a short span of time, it is very difficult to comprehend all, but I have touched upon all areas. And thank you for your patient listening, and thank you Dream team for hosting me. So next is Q&A session. If you are having any questions, please shoot.
First of all, sir, thank you so much for that very insightful and very descriptive session.
Thank you.
Maximum justice to it, I should say. We were very enlightened. So thank you so much for that session, sir. So now we'll move on to the Q&A. So anyone with you can put it in the chat box here or in the YouTube live session.
No doubts. So whenever after a session, if there are no doubts, there are two options. Either you people have understood everything, or you people have understood nothing. These are the two takes that the presenter or the guy who handled the session can take. So I believe I will move on with the first one. That means you people have understood everything.
Hello, sir. We have a question.
Sure.
Okay, sir. We have a question. It is actually, we know Elon Musk, who is the CEO of Tesla and many other firms, had started Solar City, and he says that that's the future. But recently, China had created an artificial sun, and also they claim that that will be the future. That means the nuclear technology. According to you, what will be the future for our planet's energy source, solar or nuclear? If so,
it will be a combined source. We can't reliably say that nuclear is going to be the future or solar is going to be the future, because nothing can run on its own. You need to have a comprehensive approach. So Tesla is building very large solar parks, and Tesla is also researching on nuclear. They are not announcing it on the public, but there are various documents with respect to the US Federal Reserve, as well as the US technologies, as well as NASA have put forward some increasing level of radiation from the Tesla parks and all other things. And similarly, China also has very large solar parks, and they are also superior in nuclear technology. So I'm telling you that it is not going to be a single point of source. It is going to be a multi-point of source, where all the renewable source systems are going to have a suitable role. Our country is also in the front run of nuclear technology. We currently have 22 nuclear reactors in run, and coming to where I am sitting, there is a nuclear power plant within a 50-mile radius, the Kudankulam power plant, which was operated within the short span of, let's say, last 5 or 6 years. That means that which was not operational before the 5-year plan before that. Again, the system is running. That means that it is going to be a multi-pointed system in the future, not going to be a single pointed, as anyone states. Whether being Jeff Bezos says, or let's say, Tesla guy says, it doesn't mean that it is going to be a single one. It is going to be a multi-point source. That's for sure.
Okay, sir. I also have another question. Is there any new type of energy yet to be discovered that can revolutionize the energy resource?
If a thing needs to be discovered, means how can I know that? So there are various sources. There are various sources of energy. Like take geothermal energy, especially in Scandinavian countries, they are accessing geothermal energy, or the energy of hot water that is moving around in time. And coming into nuclear technology, we have the nuclear fusion technology, which is not being fully potentialized. There are research reactors that actually work on nuclear fusion reaction, but as you know, our sun itself works on the nuclear fusion process, but it doesn't been experimentally. We are not able to generate. But if nuclear fusion technology is getting perfected, like in a commercial form, research reactors are there, and I agree with that. There was even a research reactor being carried out in one of the hostel rooms in Kerala, because a student from a I'm not disclosing those details. It was widely circulated when I was studying my BTech. It was widely circulated in all the newspaper. A student in an engineering college in Kerala carried out or developed nuclear fusion with the help of some black marketed products and in his hostel room, and that was also possible. So nuclear fusion, as I said, it is a very potential area, but it is not fully operational as an operational reactor. Research reactors are there, but it is not fully operational as an operational reactor. So in an answer to your query, I can say that nuclear fusion is one of the most under evaluated areas of nuclear or in the area of energy sources.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question.
Yeah.
It's from Santosh K. He has asked, how can we bridge the technology gap for renewable energy in rural areas?
To bridge the gap, as I have said, there needs to be a policy approach, because you can't, let's take the case of Kerala. We are having two organizations that are working for the same goal. We are having ANERT, we are having Energy Management Center, and we are having KSCB on top of that. So we are having three different centers, and on top of that, we have the Ministry of New and Rural Energy for the Government of India. So like that, a multi-pronged approach is actually that is needed to overcome this divide. And for that divide to overcome, we need to have a comprehensive analysis or a comprehensive working of all the people at all the level, including the local community. So whenever there is a such comprehensive action takes place, then only we can say that we can actually overcome this rural divide.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. And we have a question from Sayanth.
Yeah, Sayanth.
So, I hope you heard about the company called NewScale. It's a small reactor kind of company.
Yeah.
So, do you think like an approach to the small-scaled nuclear reactor would help?
Do you know which ministry controls the nuclear power in India?
Atomic research.
Atomic research. It is under which ministry, or it is under which minister?
I actually don't know that.
Yeah, I will come. That is the point with respect to it. Sorry?
So is it defense? So
no, it is not. It is directly under the Prime Minister. Department of Atomic Energy is directly under the Prime Minister, and DAE is the only area where private players are not allowed yet. It may be allowed in the future. There are research going on, but still there is the notion of weaponization of this nuclear reactors. As I have stated one example in the previous condition, that guy had to shut down his entire experiment because the people who have identified such a reactor to be operational, the first set of inquiry that he had was from the Central Intelligence Team. So mainly because of this weaponization of these nuclear reactors, till now our country is not opening up for the private sector. There are some sectors, as you said, there are some research reactors being developed by the private sector, but till to have a research reactor to be operational, you need fissile material. You can't directly purchase fissile material until and unless it is from the black market. So still it is under the Prime Minister's office, and the Prime Minister is directly regulating the policies with respect to Department of Atomic Energy. So we can't expect to have an open approach for nuclear energy. There are research happening. There are, let's say, because if you take the case of, let's say, fertilizers, because when India was going through the green revolution state, no one expected that fertilizers could be manufactured by private people. But over the course of, let's say, 20-25 years now, private people are mostly manufacturing the chemical fertilizers. They are the most important players in chemical fertilizers. Like that, in the course of future time, we can expect that also the nuclear area or the Department of Atomic Energy becomes open to the private players, so that people like, or a company like a new startup can work on the nuclear reactor, and they even can commercialize that technology. And again, that is only not even on the policy documents. Also, still now, whatever policy documents Niti Aayog have come up with, there is no mentioning of privatizing atomic energy. So we can't expect that in the near future. Only in the long run, only we can expect that.
Thank you, sir. So thank you so much for spending this hour with us and for enlightening us so much, and for even being so ready to answer all our questions and doubts. So once again, thank you so much for being here with us today. So I invite Sayan to present the vote of thanks. Sayan, you're mute. Can you unmute?
I'm sorry, guys. Even at a short notice time coming to this session and giving us all the details and having a fun session with you, I feel really great. And I am expressing our sincere thanks behalf of the Dream Team and our members. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sayan. I am once again expressing my sincere gratitude to all of you for your patient listening. And stay safe. Good night, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.